Can you touch on attitude? No. We can only infer them. By observing what? By observing behavior. By looking at someone's behavior, we can infer, okay, this is the attitude a person has. Otherwise, just by looking at the person is standing, okay, he has a positive attitude, negative attitude, you can't say. If he behaves in a particular manner, then we can say something, right? Second, it is lasting, it is relatively lasting in nature. Attitudes are relatively lasting. They are relatively lasting in nature. So these are lasting evaluations, relatively lasting evaluations. That is, once attitudes are formed, they don't go away so easily. They remain for some period of time. These evaluation always serve some purpose. Serve some purpose for an individual. Three. They are learned through various processes. They are learned through various processes of socialization. Through various processes of socialization. Four. The expression of attitudes can be both verbal and non-verbal. If you have a negative attitude, you can show it on your face. Yes, positive or negative attitude, you can show it through your gestures, facial expressions. That is non-verbal. By words also, verbal as well. That is four. Expression is both verbal as well as non-verbal. Attitudes are strong predictors of behavior. They exert a huge influence on behavior. Strong predictors of behavior. Or you can say they move behavior. They move behavior. So if you have an attitude that pushes you to behave in a particular manner, that's why attitudes move behavior. Propel behavior, motivate behavior. Attitudes change with experience and knowledge. Attitudes can undergo change with experience and knowledge. Rigid or dogmatic attitudes. Rigid or dogmatic attitudes, or orthodox attitudes, are not the same as strong attitudes. Rigid or dogmatic or orthodox attitudes are not the same as strong attitudes. Strong attitudes may be rooted in rationality and reason. So where does rationality and reason come from? Where does it come from? Rationality, reason. Where does it come from? Experience and knowledge. Rationality and reason comes from experience and knowledge. Okay. See, as a result of socialization, you learn some attitudes, right? And if the socialization process is very strong, right, with regard to a particular attitude, it becomes very much deep rooted. It becomes a strong attitude. Next, some attitudes may be ambivalent as well. Some attitudes may be ambivalent as well. Like what? Ambivalent attitudes. This is like you have both the positive and negative attitude towards a particular object or an event. Both positive and negative. A person who is diabetic. Example, a person who is diabetic and his liking for chocolates. So is it not an ambivalent attitude he is going to have towards chocolates? Right? He has a positive attitude towards chocolates, sweet, and negative attitude towards the chocolate because of the health concern. It's an ambivalent attitude. Just like students have an ambivalent attitude towards studies. You have an ambivalent attitude. What is a positive attitude? You want to study. Why do you want to study? Because it will take you somewhere in the future. That is why you want to study. At the same time, you don't want to study. Why you don't want to study? Because you have so many other things to do in your life, more important things. Yes. So you have, he's wondering, what are the more important things do I have in it? Okay. Ambivalent attitudes. Okay. Next. Attitudes and values. Difference between attitudes and values. Attitudes and values, is there any difference at all? Values are more like moral principles. These are more like principles. Values are more like principles itself. Okay, sorry. We'll take the easier route. Attitudes, on the other hand, are the stances we take towards an object or an event, particular object or an event or a person, a stance we take or a stance we have. Values are a part of a person's character or a person's self, very close to a person's self. Values are very close to a person's self. Very close to a person's self. Clearly visible in the character. Clearly visible in the character. Attitudes, on the other hand, they are just a part of personality. Attitudes are a part of a person's personality. Values influenced by family, friends, culture, religion. Family, friends, religion, culture, society as a whole. Direct influence on values. Attitudes are shaped by the underlying values. You will never have an attitude which goes against the value system you possess. Basically, that's what it means. Remember the concentric circles? That's how it works. Done. So shaped by values. Attitudes are shaped by values. So which is more stronger, values or attitudes? Values are more stronger any day. Any day, values are more stronger. Next, components of attitude. Components. Components of attitude. CAB or ABC components. CAB components or ABC components. Cognitive component, affect component, and behavioral component. Cognitive component is that part of the attitude which deals with the thoughts. It is related to your thoughts, your beliefs, your opinions. We can say that it is the knowledge component of attitude. Do you have a negative attitude towards cockroach or positive attitude? So mostly people have negative attitude. Why do you have the negative attitude towards the cockroach? Has it ever, bit you, caused some, ever? No, right? It has not caused any harm. Then why do you have a negative attitude? Have you ever been bitten by a snake? That person has been bitten by a snake. Majority of the people, no, right? But you have a negative attitude towards it. On what basis? Thought and belief, right? Belief, as a result of which you have a thinking, right? So this is the cognitive component, which is creating what? A negative attitude. So this is one component. The next component is affect component. This is about how an object or a thing or an event makes you feel. It's about the feeling or the emotion, feeling or the emotional component of attitude. Okay. This is more like somebody has told you based on the knowledge, you have decided like that. Okay. What is this about? It is more like, you have experienced at some point, right? Or you think about it in a particular manner, and then as a result of which you develop a feeling that it is dangerous, right? So as a result of you thinking that it is dangerous, you feel the fear, right? The fear causes you to have a positive or a negative attitude. What is this? That is the affect component. Yes. Now, can you say that, sir, the root cause is still cognitive itself? Right? The root cause is still cognitive. So sometimes you may have a negative attitude towards, say, for example, you have a negative attitude towards a particular political party. What is it on the basis of? Is it the affect component or is it the cognitive component? It is cognitive component, which is driving your attitude, right? Your attitude towards cockroach is more about what? It is mostly about affect component. So which is taking the lead? Affect is taking the lead. In case of cockroaches, lizards, right? Do you like lizards? Right? Have you ever held a lizard in your hand just like that, playing with it? Right? There are always rarities, right? So do you like bitter gourd? Right? Is it because of cognitive aspect? Is it affect? It is mostly because of the experiences you have had. Right? Experience aspect aata hai yahan pe. Right? You show a bitter gourd to a kid for the first time. It is eatable, you eat. Will it say, no, it is disgusting, I will not eat? It will eat first. Uske baad pata chalta hai, wo disgusting hai. The tastes. What is this? It is a result of experience. So, behavioral component. It is not affect, it is affect. Affect is feeling or emotion, right? Okay. Done. It is a result of experience. Now, say for example, you have a thought, then you develop an emotion, right? As a result of which you have a behavioral component. What is this behavioral component? Next time, whether I will act in favor of it or against it will be decided. Now, Every time you have a negative attitude, do you behave negatively? Every time you have a positive attitude, do you behave positively? I'm just asking a simple question. You have a positive attitude towards something. Do you always behave positively towards it? Huh? Yes. Okay. Overall attitude towards a baby of a mother. Positive attitude. Does the mother never scold the kid? खत्म खत्म है कि नहीं? तो what am I saying? I am just saying that this component just gives a tendency. It just gives a tendency. Whether we actually act in favor or not in favor depends on what? The situation, right? While attitude is a strong predictor of behavior, not always do the attitudes lead to the consistent behavior. That's what we can say. I don't like, I have negative attitude towards bitter gourd. Under certain circumstance, I may have to see, I should not eat bitter gourd then, ever. But do we eat bitter gourd at sometimes? Why do we eat? Thinking that it is, it has some health benefits. I say, खा लेते हैं. Agreed? ये क्या है? Behavioral component. So cognitive, affect, and behavioral component. What is the doubt you have? It is not affect component, it is affect component. And again, affects, whether it affects something or not, that is different. This affect is different, right? So it is a psychology terminology where affect is seen as feeling or emotion. Okay. Which one? This affect. It can be a result of experience, right? Or it can be because of the thought process over a period of time. It can be of anything, any reason. Obviously, just by looking at something which is similar, right? Reptiles ka example le lijiye aap. Take the example of reptiles. Anything that resembles a snake or something which crawls, right? You have fear. You have a creeper. All of a sudden you look at a creeper, you look, it looks like a snake and you have fear. Yes. So what is this? This is more about the affect. It can be a result of your cognition. It can be a result of your experience as well. Both are possible. Okay. Can we say that some of the attitudes we have are a result of cognitive aspect mostly? Some of the attitudes we have is a result of affect component mostly. Some of the attitudes we have is a result of behavioral component or the experiential component mostly, right? But any attitude you look at, it will have all the three components to some extent, but one of them will be dominating. Yes, one of them will be dominating. Fine. This is the CAB model or ABC model. The next model for components is a MOD model. A MOD model. MOD. Motivation and opportunity as determinants. Motivation and opportunity as determinants of attitudes. As determinant of attitude, behavior, attitude to behavior relationship. Motivation and opportunity as determinant. MOD. Okay. MOD as determinants of the attitude behavior relationship. When motivation, according to this model, when motivation and opportunity both are present, when M and O both are present, behavior will be deliberate. Behavior will be deliberate. When one of them is absent, that is either motivation or if the opportunity is absent, then the behavior will be spontaneous. Then the behavior will be spontaneous. Accordingly, this model puts forward two types of attitudes. It puts forward two types of attitudes. One is explicit attitudes, and the other one is implicit attitudes. Explicit attitudes and implicit attitudes. Explicit attitudes are the attitudes which are at the conscious level. Which are at the conscious level. Which are deliberately formed. Deliberately formed and easy to report. You can do the self-report. You can clearly say, okay, this is the attitude that I have. Okay. Consciously, you know. Right? The force behind the formation of this attitude is what? Conscious effort. Consciously, you have gained the knowledge, you know the existence of this attitude, right? So what is this? Explicit attitudes. There are some implicit attitudes on the other hand. These are at an unconscious level. And they are typically unknown to us. These attitudes are unknown to us. Okay. Because they are unknown to us, whenever they come into action, we do not know they are actually acting. They are spontaneous. So they are outside our conscious awareness. That is why their expression is mostly spontaneous. Essentially, it means this. Whenever you know what attitude you have, whenever you know how your attitude has been formed, right, based on the knowledge it has been formed, based on various other aspects, you clearly know how your attitude got formed. When you know everything about the attitude, consciously you are aware of it. A situation arises, how to react to this situation, you think. And you also clearly know whether I have a positive attitude or negative attitude. And you engage in an action which is deliberate. Right? Which means motivation is also present. opportunity is also present, right? Both should be present. Then explicit attitude comes into picture. On the other hand, you do not know how your attitude has been formed. You don't know what attitude you have also, right? A situation arises, automatically you jump into action. Sudden reaction aata hai. Why did you behave negatively or positively in this situation? What caused you to behave in this particular manner? We don't know, right? You are unaware about it. What is this? Did you have motivation there? No, there was no motivation. Was there opportunity for you to think about it? Probably no. What are these attitudes called? Implicit, which are unaware to us. Okay? No, it's not that. There are some attitudes which are unaware, which we are unaware of. Say, for example, if I clearly ask you, what is your attitude going to be towards a person, right, whom you are going to meet for the first time from Micronesia? Do you know? You don't know. But when you meet the person, are you going to show the positive attitude or negative attitude? You don't know actually, but you are going to show either a positive or a negative attitude. Where did this attitude form? Do you know when did it form? You don't know. It is completely unconscious. बस ऐसे ही हो जाता है, which means there are workings that are happening in our brain at an unconscious level, right? इसका मतलब ये हुआ, a pyramid, right? Pyramid of our mind ऐसा है. This is your conscious mind. Things you know, you are aware of. Subconscious mind. With effort, you can understand. With effort, by thinking more, you'll be able to understand more about the working of your brain. Ye subconscious hai. It's like the words I am speaking now to you, you are able to hear, you are able to process the information around you. That is the conscious. I'll just ask you a simple question. Who is the president of India? Before I ask this question, was the name of the president on your mind? No, which means it was subconscious. Clear? Done. That was subconscious. Now, this is the area of the subconscious. What is unconscious? You do not know. We do not know. Unconscious thought is more, right? All these three are causing us to have what? Attitudes and behaviors. All these are causing us to have attitudes and behaviors. So, how are your attitudes formed mostly? Mostly it is because of the unconscious, maybe. Agreed? You got an idea? Yes? Cognition is? No, it is not. That is why it is spontaneous. That is why it is spontaneous. Nightmares. Your nightmares are basically illogical. Right? If it is over a period of time, if nightmares are over a period of time, right, it is a disorder actually. It is a disorder. So generally what happens in your dreams, dreams kya hota hai? What is dreams? What is the purpose of dreams? It's like your brain is not supposed to stay quiet all the time, right? If it goes quiet, then it is going to be highly problematic. As in, if it goes quiet completely, no working of the brain for some time, let me take rest, complete rest, let me take. If it decides like that, then what would happen? If there is a danger, impending danger, it will not wake up. So it should always be working. How does it keep itself in working all the time? How does it keep itself in working all the time? See, what does your brain do all throughout the day? It processes the information, right? So it is working all throughout the day. Night mein kya hota hai? Is there some information that is being passed on to the brain through your sense organs? Nahi. It is blocked out. Now, what will the brain work on? Brain has to work on something, right? What it does is, already existing information जो है brain में, उसी information को लेके, right? It is going to process. When it is going to take the information that is already existing, which is not reality, there is no organized thought. It is going to pick some information from this area, some information from that area. It all mixes up. And now you have a dream. That is what your dream is. That is why you start in Bangalore and you are in Delhi in probably what? 10 seconds. Right? Agreed. Your head is here, but in the dream, your head is under your foot. You're walking on your head. Anything can happen in your dream. Yes? So it's a way of keeping your brain active. That's about it. This is one of the perspectives. It is one of the perspectives. Now, nightmares kya hai? What is nightmares? Nightmares are also a part of the dreams, right? But they are horrific ones. That's it. Okay. Anything else you want to ask? It's a fascinating subject, right? Next, types of attitudes. Carl Jung. Jung. Jung nahi hai. It is Carl Jung. Carl Jung, a famous psychologist, a psychoanalyst, a psychologist. He defines attitudes. As a readiness of psyche, psyche or mind. Readiness of a mind to act or react in a certain way. He says that attitudes usually work in pairs. And he gives us different kinds of attitude or different types of attitudes in pairs. First type he mentions conscious and unconscious attitudes. The attitudes which we are aware of, the attitudes which we are not aware of. The attitudes which we are aware of, the attitudes which we are not aware of. or conscious mind is just like a tip of an iceberg. The total mind is composed of what? Total mind is composed, it's the brain, not the mind. Okay. The total mind is composed of conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious. And majority of our mind is unconscious, at least according to Young. So because it is majority of it is unconscious, most of the attitudes we have will be unconscious attitudes. We do not know most of the attitudes that exist in us. How to know what attitudes you have? It will be just dependent on how you behave. After seeing your behavior, we can get to understand, okay, this person's attitude is like this. You also get to understand your attitude is like that only after you behave. You would have behaved spontaneously in many situations. And then when you sit down and think about it, then you get to understand, okay, my attitude is like this. Till that point, you would not have the idea even. Yes. Second, extroversion and introversion. Extroversion and introversion. People differ in their attitudes. People differ in their attitudes when dealing with others, in the way they deal with others. They differ in the way they deal with others. So basically, the attitude they show towards others will be different. Accordingly, we have extrovert people and introvert people. How you deal with others, the attitude you show towards others, right? Extroverts कैसे होते हैं? They act first, they tend to act first and think later. They tend to act first and think later. Introverts, introversion attitude जो है, these are the people who engage in a lot of thought before they act. They think a lot before they act. How to know a person is an extrovert or introvert? Many times you speak, after speaking you realize that you have spoken the wrong words, which means you are an extrovert. Okay. So very simple. The more number of times you have realized that you have spoken wrongly, it means you are more of an extrovert. Okay.
So what if it happens only in certain situations?
If it is happening, the number of situations matter, right? Number of situations compared to others, relative to others. No, relative to others. Relative to others. I'm saying relative. Huh?
Depends on the environment.
Depends on the environment. Obviously, say for example, amongst all the people that are present here, as far as I see, two people are extroverts. One is you, the other person is him. You're the extroverts, relatively speaking. Okay. I'm not saying you don't think before you act. I'm just saying relatively, you speak more than others. Okay. Next. The attitude of, I'll give you a positive one, don't worry. Extroverts are often relaxed and confident. Introverts, they bottle up their own emotions. Introverts bottle up their own emotions, which can explode if pushed too far. If pushed too far. जैसे कि you observe it. People who are always talking, right? They generally do not lose that temper. They don't lose the temper. It's like they're always talking, right? I'm talking about normal people. Okay. So who are always talking, in a high pitched voice itself, if they are talking, they maintain it. On the other hand, people who are quiet most of the time, if you push them too far, right, you have to know that threshold actually. If they break the ceiling, then there is no way you can control them, right? So what is that? That's the characteristic feature of whom? Introverts. That's how they are. Extroverts have an intention to change the world or change the surroundings around them. They have an intention. Don't worry too much. As of now, you can't even change your breakfast. Right? So, okay. Introversion. These people, instead of thinking about changing the world, they just want to understand the world. Trying to understand too much, they don't have time to act, basically. That's how it is for them. Okay, so that's how they look at the world. That's how they deal with the people. That's why they do not speak more. They are more inward looking, right? They like talking to people. They like going out, right? Making new friends. That's what extroverts are all about. Introverts are like, कहीं पे नहीं जाना है, आराम से बैठना है. I have to think about the world. The world is so big, right? So thinking a lot, they don't know how to act, right? So they are more cautious. They are more reserved, the introverts. Okay. Ambiverts, see, it's extroversion, introversion, ये जो है, this is a typology given by Jung, right? But today's typology is more like, these are the two extremes. It's a continuum, right? Ambiverts will be in middle. Okay. How do extroverts see introverts and how do introverts see extroverts? Extroverts see the introverts as egocentric people and passive people. They generally see the introverts as what? Egocentric people or passive people. So what is egocentric? Self-centered person, right? This person doesn't care about anyone. The person cares about only himself or herself, right? Okay, passive person, मतलब कुछ काम का नहीं है, बस ऐसे ही जी रहा है, right? The person is a burden on this planet, ऐसा. On the other hand, introverts see the extroverts to be shallow people and pushy people. Shallow and pushy. Done. Shallow and pushy. That is more like you don't respect others' wishes, right? So it's like an extrovert comes, hey, come, let's go out. The introvert is like, no, I don't want to go. Extrovert is, hey, what is there here? Come. Now introvert will be like, what kind of a person? He does not care for my wishes. right? So ये है pushy. Next, the third, rational and irrational attitudes. Rational, irrational. Rational attitudes are the ones which are influenced by the psychological functions of thinking and feeling. They are a result of reason. Reason and reflection का result है. How you think, right? See, your rational thought or rational attitude is on the basis of thinking and feeling, and both these come as a result of reflective thought, or as a result of reflection. Where does this reflection come from? It comes from your experience, based on the experiences you have, based on the knowledge you possess. Okay. So your reflective thought is a result of experience and knowledge, and this reflective thought gives rise to your thinking and how you feel, right? Is it rational? Yes, that is how rational attitudes are. Next comes irrational attitudes. It is not grounded in reason. It's a result of intuition and sensation. It's a result of intuition and sensation. Okay. What is intuition and sensation? Sensation क्या होता है? The raw sensory inputs which keep changing with the time, as a result of which you have gut feeling. Intuition is gut feeling, right? The attitudes which are based on these will be irrational. There is no thinking involved. Just like that, you have an attitude. Such attitudes are called what? Irrational attitudes, which lack reason. There is no thought in it. This is the third. 4, individual and social attitudes. Individual and social. Individual attitude is about what attitude a person has towards various objects in his life, various events, various persons in his life, depending on his own uniqueness. So each individual has different attitudes based on his uniqueness. Social attitudes. Social attitudes are the ones which have a wider impact. all the isms will be under social attitudes. All the isms, ISMs. What are they? Socialism, capitalism, terrorism, liberalism, conservatism, all these isms. These are social attitudes. Realism, compatibilism. Yes, all these isms are social attitudes. The attitudes of a group of people as a whole, right? It is not the attitude of one person actually. Next. Positive, negative. So the next one. So this is all Carl Jung gives. Other broad classification, other types, broader types of attitudes. Broader types of attitudes can be positive, negative, and neutral attitude. Positive attitudes, negative attitudes, and neutral attitudes. First, positive attitudes. Positive attitudes manifest in the form of positive and constructive thinking. They give rise to positive and constructive thinking. Basically, it is helpful for having positive attitudes, is helpful for creative thinking. So it gives us the motivation. Positive attitudes give the motivation and energy to do things, accomplish goals. Person who has more positive attitudes is generally happy. He generally is happy. The person who has more positive attitudes is generally happy. Negative attitude, it brings with it pessimism. Hampers creative thinking. Lacks motivation and energy. That's how it gets manifested, right? Neutral attitude, it simply means detachment. Detachment. It shows ignorance. It shows ignorance. It comes in the form of ignorance, indifference, unemotional. But sometimes it is balanced. Neutral attitude is sometimes gives rise to a balanced, a balanced way of dealing with things. You have a balanced attitude. Once you have a balanced outlook towards something, it's a positive trait actually. The other word for balanced, you can write equanimity. Tranquility is peace. right? Equanimity. Equanimity. Basically, it means equally animated, right? Equanimity. Fine. This is the different types of attitudes according to Carl Jung, and broadly positive, negative, and neutral, and how they get manifested. Now we have specific attitudes. Specific attitudes. Which is the first one? Attitude towards weaker sections. Attitude towards weaker sections. A measure of a man's character. A measure of a man's character would be clear, would be correct, be clear if evidenced on the basis of how he treats the people who are not in a position to retaliate or reciprocate. What does it mean? Basically, the weaker sections. Actually, how we treat the people who cannot retaliate, who cannot reciprocate, will be dependent on the attitudes we hold. The attitudes we hold towards poverty, towards deprivation, discrimination, towards poverty, deprivation, discrimination. So, how we treat people will be dependent on what? The attitudes we hold towards poverty, deprivation, discrimination, and other factors that perpetuate such conditions. Having a negative attitude. Should you have a positive attitude towards poverty or negative attitude? Having a positive attitude in relation to such factors. in relation to such factors? Mean or imply, implies. Empathy and caring nature of a person, implies. Empathy and caring nature of a person, the compassion of a person. This attitude is of utmost importance for civil servants. Why is it of utmost importance? Civil servants, they have a position, and that position comes with power. Civil servants enjoy a position, or it is a position and it comes with some power. They enjoy that power. What is that power? What is that power? The power to allocate resources. What resources? These resources. Social, political, and economic resources. Sir, what is a social resource? The resource that belongs to the society. Equality is a resource by that measure. Right? Political resource kya hota hai? What is a political resource? The rights. There are certain rights. Economic resource, money aspect, right? So he has the power to allocate the resources. Yes, the attitude he has will decide how he allocates these resources, right? If he has a positive attitude towards the marginalized, he is going to utilize this power in the right manner. If he has a negative attitude, it is different. So it clearly decides whether he is going to help the marginalized or marginalize the marginalized. That's what it is going to decide. Understood? So, civil servants enjoy the power of their position. That power of allocating the resources. Having a positive attitude ensures they use these immense powers. They use these immense powers to cause inclusion of the marginalized. To cause inclusion of the marginalized. Okay, done. Yes, next. Political attitudes. Next is political attitudes. So this is a separate topic in your syllabus. Clearly it is given. Political attitudes is a separate topic. Clearly it is mentioned, political attitudes. So we have to go into the details of this particular topic. और एक topic है moral attitudes. OB, clearly it is mentioned in the syllabus itself. Okay, in your syllabus it is clearly mentioned attitudes, meaning, uske baad, components of attitudes, right? So it is clearly mentioned. So wherever it is clearly mentioned, the topic, we are going into the details. So they have mentioned political attitudes. So what are political attitudes? Tell me, what are political attitudes? The attitudes related to the political issues are political attitudes. That's it. Issues pertaining to politics, the attitudes you have related to all the issues related to politics or pertaining to politics would be considered political attitudes. So it is about the attitudes and beliefs people have towards the issues pertaining to politics. These issues encompass the political system, political systems, the institutions, political institutions, leadership, other events in the political sphere, The political attitude of the people of a country decides the kind of government they are going to have, or the type of government they are going to have is largely dependent on what? The political attitudes of the people. Think about it. A country which is running on the fuel of religion, caste, creed, and all these aspects will give rise to such governments, right, which are going to have a similar outlook. Countries where people have the attitudes which are based on socialism, capitalism, and everything, you are going to have the governments on the basis of these lines itself. The topic of discussion in political circles will be these things, right? Say for example, in India, which are the topics of discussion mostly? Is it capitalism? Is it socialism and all this? No. Caste, religion, right? Language. These become the core ideas on the basis of which people's attitudes. See, they think about politics from these lines. People think from these lines. Accordingly, the governments are also on those lines itself. In USA, do people think about politics from the lines of hamara religion hai, right? This is the area I come from, right? Area, yes. Language, wo bhi barrier nahi hai. That is why there it is about what? More about democratic and republicans, right? Conservative or more liberal. So it depends on the people's attitude towards the political issues, right? What they consider as a political issue matters a lot. Remember, political attitude is not the same as political ideology. They are different. Political attitudes are different from political ideology. Political ideology is more about the ethical ideas, ethical ideals or ideas, ethical ideas and beliefs, on the basis of which parties are formed, right? So ideology is more about what a particular party considers as right or wrong. That is ideology. Certain principles it has. That is more about ideology. What is attitude? Political attitude क्या होता है? Related to a party, I have favorable or unfavorable attitude. Related to democracy, I have a favorable or unfavorable attitude. Related to a particular leader, I have a favorable or unfavorable attitude. Yes, related to caste politics, that's an issue, right? Political issue, I have a positive or a negative attitude. What is this? This is the attitude part. Whether you look at the aspects of politics positively or negatively or neutrally is your political attitude. Political ideology क्या है? The ethical values or ethical ideas and the beliefs on the basis of which parties are formed. That's it, right? Which is much broader. Political attitudes are much more broader, right? It pertains to everything. So political attitudes is about all these things. What did I speak about? Political ideology. What is political ideology about? ये यहाँ पे आता है. Political ideology is related to the institutions that operate in politics, which is a political party. It is related to only that. Okay. Next. Political attitudes of a person are formed. So in a person, if you see the political attitude, it will be dependent on various factors. One, the various factors responsible for the formation of political attitudes. One, family. One, it is a family. So they are greatly influenced by the family, that is the parents and the elders. You see that kids, or the moment they reach the age of an voter, they vote pretty much on the same lines as the parents, pretty much. Majority of the times, you can write majority of the times, we see that children tend to vote, or new voters tend to vote the way their parents vote. The influence of the family in terms of political opinions is highly enduring. Okay. Even as they grow older, even as people grow older, even as they age, with experience and exposure, with new experiences and exposure, they may change their attitudes, they may change their opinions, and attitudes. It's not that, it is going to remain the same. Second important factor to decide the political attitudes. Gender. Second factor. When women are not empowered, they generally tend to follow the husband's political opinion or political attitudes, or the elders or their parents' political views. However, in modern democracies, especially in the West, and in some developing countries like India, women have developed their own political views. They usually support to such political parties, which hold the views in favor of women's issues. Whichever political parties are taking up the women's issues, they support them. Like equal work, equal pay, equal legal rights, reservation for women. However, there is no evidence to prove that women tend to vote more for women candidates. There's not much evidence for that, however. Women tend to vote more for female candidates. I saw, you don't have much evidence. Despite what? Despite having their own political views. Still they don't. Probably. Or they might not be telling the truth as well. Right? And you generally see this, however, whenever it is a women candidate, you generally, in patriarchal societies, you tend to see that men don't vote for women. वो तो है. But despite having a woman candidate or a female candidate, despite she actually being the person who is a defender of women's issues, generally women are supposed to vote for her, but we don't see it. Why? We don't know. Right? Probably it's because women think that men do more for women. Men candidates do more for women than the women candidates. That might be on the back of their mind. Or maybe the party also comes to picture. That's also there. Okay. Next, religion. Third factor is religion. Despite all the scientific advancements that have happened, the majority of the world is still religious. People tend to support those parties which represent their religious beliefs. This is one of the reasons why political parties use religion to lure the voters. Okay. In India, it's very, very easy to identify the religious affiliation of almost every party. Of every political party, you can clearly identify the religious affiliation they have. How is it so clear? How is it so clear? Because every single party tries to lure the voters belonging to a particular religion. So easily पता चल जाता है. Some parties support or some parties try to appease the majority religion. Some parties try to lure the minority religion. Okay. Next. Caste is the next aspect. Caste. Next, region. Next, race and ethnicity. Race and ethnicity, about which I think you can write. About these three aspects you can write. Okay. A political attitude has a hierarchical structure. Structure of a political attitude. Next is structure of a political attitude. Structure of a political attitude. It has a hierarchical structure. It has a hierarchical structure. It starts at a specific opinion, then it becomes a habitual opinion, then it becomes an attitude, then it becomes an ideology. ये है structure. Specific opinion, habitual opinion, attitude, ideology. ये है hierarchy. So it's a 4-tier structure. Specific opinion. It's an individual opinion about various political issues. So political issues in the sense, it can be related to what you think about democracy, what do you think about authoritarianism, what do you think about a republic, what do you think about a parliamentary form of government, what do you think about particular leaders, what do you think about various political parties, what do you think about caste, what do you think about religion. These are all political issues, political institutions. What do you think about state assembly? Yes, all these things. You are thinking about institutions, you are thinking about the type of government, you are thinking about the leaders, everything. At an individual level, this is known as specific opinion. Don't you think there will be a lot of variation between individuals? Yes, there's going to be a huge variation between individuals. And also, this is something which keeps changing also. This is something which keeps changing. specific opinions have a tendency to change a lot. These opinions tend to be random, casual, and unpredictable. Okay. Done. Now, today you might support democracy. Tomorrow you might be saying something against the democracy. At a superficial level, it looks like these are random opinions you are having. That's how it looks. But what is habitual opinion? When you observe this person, analyze this person and his opinions over a period of time, you find a pattern. What was appearing to be superficially it was appearing to be random. You see a pattern. When you analyze him completely and his opinions over a period of time, you see that most of the time this person is supporting democracy itself. He has reservations about democracy, but he is mostly supporting what? The viewpoint of being democratic itself. What is this? Habitual opinion. So, habitual opinions emerge from the basic thought process, from a deep psychological level. When specific opinions are analyzed, over a period of time, one can see a definite pattern. Which is more consistent. These are called habitual opinions. Okay. Habitual opinions. Say, for example, you might cry so much about the pitfalls of or the problems that exist in our country as a result of democracy. Okay, you might be crying every day about it. On the face of it, it looks like you have a negative opinion about democracy. The moment a specific issue pops up on the world arena, where you have a democratic country and authoritarian regime fighting, which country do you support? You support a democratic country. Why did you do that? Habitual opinion. That is a habitual opinion. And next you have a attitude. An attitude is built on the basis of a number of related habitual opinions. Right? Based on a number of habitual opinions, related habitual opinions, you have an attitude formed. Okay. Ideology, on the other hand, consists of a system of general ideas. It's a system of general ideas of man and society. Which is based on certain values, general values. So it is formed on the basis of several attitudes you possess, several political attitudes you possess. Based on that, you have an ideology. Political ideology is on the basis of the attitudes that you have towards various political issues. उसके basis पे ideology बनता है. Done. ये है आपका structure. Ideological dimensions. Ideologies जो है, it comes in various dimensions. This we will take up in the next class. इनमें दो dimensions हैं. Two kinds you can see. One more you can add. 3. Left versus right is one dimension. 2. Libertarian, liberty, and the other one, liberty versus authoritarian. There is one more. And third, state socialism. State socialism or communism, you can say, versus capitalism or laissez-faire. Okay. So these are the 3 dimensions in the ideological framework. So we know what specific opinion is, we know what is habitual opinion is, we know what an attitude is, political attitude is, and then we have the ideology. In order to understand ideology, we have to look at the 3 dimensions, right? Along 3 dimensions, we can look at ideologies. Left, right, liberty, authoritarian, communism, capitalism. Done. Once we complete this, our political attitudes would be done. And then, along with that, remind me, we have to talk